Hello and welcome to another session of Sunday Morning Together. This week we're following on from our story of Moses and what happens to the Israelites after they have escaped Egypt, because the danger has not ended yet. God's people, the Israelites, had been slaves in Egypt for 430 years. Now they were finally free to leave and go and make a home in their very own land. God had chosen Moses as their leader, so they packed everything they owned and followed him out of Egypt. Over 1 million Israelites set off. Moses always knew which direction to go because God put a big, tall pillar of cloud in front of them to point the way. At night, they followed a big, tall pillar of fire. They never got lost because God always showed the right way to go. Eventually, the pillar stopped by the water called the Red Sea. The Israelites camped by water and waited for God to see what he wanted them to do next. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, the Pharaoh and his officials began thinking about how all of the Israelites had left. God had proven through the 10 plagues that he was more powerful than the king of Egypt and all of the Egyptian gods. At that time, Pharaoh and the people had told the Israelites to leave Egypt, but now they were having second thoughts. If all the slaves left Egypt, then who would do all the work? So Pharaoh decided to chase after the Israelites and make them come back. He sent all of his horses and chariots and all of his horsemen and troops. He must have thought no one would be able to stop this army. When God's people saw the Egyptian army approaching in the distance, they became very afraid. There was nowhere to get away. The army was behind them and the Red Sea in front of them. They were trapped. The people complained to their leader Moses. They said, "Why did you lead us out of Egypt into the desert to die? We would have been better off to stay in Egypt." But Moses said, "Don't be afraid. Stand firm and you will see how God will save you today. The Egyptians can never win because God will fight for you." Now amazing things began to happen right before their eyes. The people had thought that they were trapped because of the water, but they were about to see that God is so powerful he can do anything. An angel of God had been travelling in front of the Israelites, and he moved to the back behind them along with a pillar of cloud. The cloud blocked the way of the Egyptians, and they could only see night and darkness. But the cloud provided light for God's people, and they could see everything. They could see the Red Sea in front of them and wish that they could get across the sea to safety. At God's command, Moses stretched out his big staff, his stick, over the water, and it began to change. A strong wind blew the water up into 2 walls so that there were walls of water on each side and dry land down the middle. God had provided a way to cross the sea to the other side. Thank you for joining in for another week. In the Google Drive link in the video description, you will find some worksheets for your family to continue on with their learning.